hey, why not be the plot twist in somebody else's story? You could lend a hand to someone unfortunate. This brings us to the fifth point in the Code of Amiability, which is to do just that. So Venerable Teresita Quevedo wanted to create this Code of Amiability to be able to more perfectly imitate Our Lady. So here we are at point 5. But didn't we just have a point about like responding positively when asked to lend a favor or asked to do a favor? How's this any different?
Well, they are very similar. That's true. But in one, the fourth point, you are asked to do something. And in this point, you have to actually notice that someone needs help. So, and we're talking about our spouses here. So ideally, you're noticing that your spouse is the unfortunate one. Maybe he had a bad day, or
maybe she's overrun with stuff,
taken a beating by whatever's going on, right? It's important to actually notice, and then you can offer rather than waiting to be asked. I think this one's kind of more difficult in a sense. And also another difference is that you can choose to ignore the situation without anyone noticing, right? In this one. In the other, in the fourth point, if someone asks you for help, you can't ignore that. I mean,
la.
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
But here, it's easy to just ignore that someone is having a hard day and just pretend you didn't notice, which ideally is not the case, right?
Right.
So, but that's a huge difference. Is that, and in this one, it takes a little more effort, unless you're one of those people who are just naturally compassionate, which that'd be very nice if you are. I remember we were at the early part of our marriage, and we had lots of little ones, and I was overloaded. By the end of the day, I just felt so exhausted with all the battles of the day, little things, It made such a huge impact on me when Greg would come home from a hard day's work himself, and he would just right away say, he'd take all the kids, he'd say, kids, let's go. We had 5. He said, let's go somewhere, or let's go read a book together. And then he'd say, Claudia, go do what you want to do. Take a nice hot shower, go relax in bed, go do read a book, whatever you want to do. And that was huge for me. That made me feel very loved, very special. Oh my goodness, it just brightened my whole day. So yeah, I mean, just noticing that I was just really under a lot of pressure and just had a hard day and was so exhausted by the end of it was huge, even especially because he himself had would have hard days and
not as hard as that.
Well, who knows? But that, I'm sure you can imagine, as well as strengthening your friendship, your relationship, it makes communication so much better because there's that willingness to help one another. And when you have that in your friendship and your relationship, it makes everything better.
So why would this be a difficult thing to do?
Well, I mean, sometimes we feel overloaded ourselves, like I said, you'll come home from work and we can both have a lot going on. But, that's where sacramental grace comes in. If you are married in the Catholic Church, as we are, then you have something that God provides called sacramental grace, which is wonderful because it basically gives you the strength that you need in these difficult times. It allows you to do things that you couldn't do by yourself. With the help of God, anything is doable, as I've seen in our marriage. And God wants us to love our spouse selflessly, to love our spouse with humility, looking at their needs with love. And so because of that, he wants to give us the sacramental grace. So if we're there ready and willing, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and use it. Go ahead and go that extra mile with my spouse, then it works really well. It's a nice, well-oiled machine that God has placed in marriage. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose another thing that might make this tough is just a sense of, well, I can't help. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So, and I think the key there is like, okay, maybe you don't, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Like, hey, is there anything I can do? And what if, well, I just don't want to.
Right. The selfish little voice inside of us, I just don't feel like it. I don't want to, right? Well, that's great that you know that, you recognize that, because that's a spotlight. That's a spotlight being placed on a vice that you have that God wants you to take care of. In marriage, that spotlight should come up a lot, right? And here, if you don't want to, that's a spotlight on your laziness. If you don't want to because you're feeling lazy, you just don't want to do the work, lack of compassion, and indifference towards what your spouse is going through. Be a good thing to recognize that, to see it. In arrogance, maybe, where you're just like,
got yourself into this. Why should I get you out of it?
Right,
No.
right.
Not a nice attitude to have.
No, it's not. Or apathy. You just
who cares?
don't care.
What's on TV?
Yeah, these are all bad things to have in your marriage, and to have a spotlight shined on it, that is just awesome, because then you can do something about it, right? You recognize it. So, hey, if you don't care, ask yourself why, right?
Mm-hmm. We invite you to be on the lookout for opportunities to help out where your spouse is in need.
And once you find those opportunities, then
do the helping. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, and we'll see you next time.